Give you a little bit of stuff that you can take with you. Where's my green light? Got to get the green light. If you don't get green lights, there we go. We want to give you something that you can take home. All right? We know, thank you for coming. It's Sunday morning. Okay, you're packed. She's like, if this sucks, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'll sit in BWI before I'll listen to you any longer. Which hopefully they won't. We wanted to talk about how do you take the teaching that you do every day in your classrooms and how do you make it last beyond the classroom? Because it's from we were in PT school, all right? Remember that? Okay, remember? Remember when technology was the gooseneck projector? And the faculty member doing this? Remember that? Okay. And when you got handouts, the first thing that you did as a student went. Okay, talking about people here. We know what we're talking about. Keep it up with PowerPoint. We want to talk to you a little bit about teaching, how to make teaching last outside the classroom, but not to burden you with other stuff that you already, oh, we can't do all that, we can't do all that. Now, we brought a bunch of toys with us today because I wanted this to work. But if you've got this in your classroom, it's easy. You walk in, throw a switch, it's there. This little device here is called a Swivl, and what it does is it connects to a microphone that I'm wearing, and it will follow me around the classroom. All right, so if you want to do video capture of your session, then you don't need to have somebody on the end of the camera. It will just follow you. If you don't want to be recorded, then don't do it. Pretty straightforward. We want to talk to you today about some broadcasting and some podcasting. As Skye said, my name is Jason Craig. I'm the Director of Teaching and Student Engagement at the university. But I was a full-time faculty member in orthopedics for a long time, okay? Almost 18 or 19 years. I graduated when I was 14, went straight into teaching. But so I've been teaching. Orthopedics is my main area. That's where I really have spent most of my time. But over the past sort of 8 to 9 years, I've really got involved with technology and how to utilize technology to make my life easier in the classroom. And when PowerPoint first came out, I remember when PowerPoint first came out. Okay, that's how old I am. All right, and I did that because when I was a PhD student, they first brought it out, and we went from 35 mil slides. Next slide, please. Remember that at conferences? But that one's upside down. Did you put that one in the other way? Yeah, remember that? And then it was PowerPoint, and then it was like, oh, we have to. Oh, next slide, please, and we have to do stuff like this. Well, when we started teaching, I was like, okay, how can I use these skills? How can I use this to really make learning last outside the classroom? And we have to, first of all, think about why. Your students pretty much are an image of this. This is what's in their head. Everything. Everything from relationships and people to music, to home, to conversations. Notice that time is outside of their brains. They have no concept of that. Okay, unless it's in their phone and they get a reminder that says you have to be in class in 10 minutes, then that time doesn't exist for most of our students. We're dealing with now in PT school. We're coming into the middle of the Y generation of students. Okay, and depending on who you read, and if you read about these sorts of things, we're starting to get the IY generation. Dr. Tim Elmore coined that phrase. The IY generation is the first generation of students that have always had an iPhone or an iPod was the first thing. That's where they got their music. You ask them, have you got an LP? Sorry, a what? 45 RPM, 33 RPM, 78. Oh yeah, still got some 78s. Well, they call it vinyl because it's cool and trendy, but if you say 78, they have no idea what you're talking about. All right? But that's the generation that we're not getting. It was the iPod, and the iPod became the iEverything. All right? Now you can get the iToaster. I don't know if you've seen this one yet. You can upload a selfie, they'll etch it into steel, you put it inside your toaster, and your toast comes up with a picture of you. Straight up. Straight up. Okay? A little narcissistic. Welcome to our students. With this generation, what you have to do with this generation is you have to break into their environment. You have to get their attention because all these other things are pulling their attention. And when we did this, we did a little video thing because it was like, what, seriously? Because you didn't know what was going on. Instantly, we were different from every other session, hopefully. I don't think anybody else did that. So we gained your attention. If you remember nothing else from today, you'd be like, oh, yeah, they were the idiots that did the video thing. All right? But we've caused some memory, we've caused some learning. So you get their attention, then we're trying to get comprehension, and then we're trying to get integration. So you feel like you're doing a song and dance all the time in front of the classroom. Every 20 minutes, you've got to get the goldfish attention again. Hey, I'm over here. Yeah, just keep swimming. Well, that's because of the generation that we have. That's because of who these students are. And is it a problem? Well, if you think it's a problem, then you don't have to deal with it, because it's reality. That's the world that we live in. Right? Are you leaving? Yeah. So what we have today in our students learn differently today. And there's a bunch of research on this. You can go and look at it. We've put a bunch of things online for you to go and check out later on. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But students learn differently today. Students scan more information today, and they don't read anything. You notice that? Well, that's because of social media. But a bunch of you will do this during the session today. At some point, you will check either your Twitter or your Facebook feed, because you'll think they're more important than what you're going to learn here. And they probably are. It's all right. And I know I saw you at the back, and I'm not going to call you out, but that's okay. And your friend is like, oh, you're caught. Teacher for a long time, see everything. But that's the nature of society, is it's sound bites. It's 140 characters. Okay? For us, we don't understand that. 140 characters? Well, like Mickey and Pluto, and I don't know 140 characters. But that's how they think. All right? And so that's how they learn. Google it. When did that become a verb? It's the name of a company. When did Google it become a thing that you do? Well, you see, here's the thing. If you can Google it, you don't have to remember it. And my kids, elementary in our district for elementary schools, there's a discussion that has just started about whether or not we need to teach the generations to come how to spell in elementary school. Why do we need to teach them how to spell? When you've got the little squiggly underline thing in Word that tells you that the words are wrong. And we'll spell check and we'll autocorrect. Like, have you seen the autocorrect stuff that occurs? This is why they need to spell. So students learn differently today. You get this idea that people have said that we don't want to use up all of our brain capacity. Like, are you a hard drive? Because you got the 128 kilobit size. Just saying. It's like, but that's been said. You know, oh, we can't learn all that because then we won't have space for this. It's like, no. That's not how the brain works. The brain is more like a muscle than it is like a repository. The more you exercise the muscle, the more it works. The less you exercise the muscle, then it doesn't work. Right? And we've seen that. And so we've got to come in and challenge our students to use their brains like a muscle. So they've got to think through stuff. The other thing that comes up is your brain doesn't put information into long-term memory until you've tutored over for a while. If I were to ask you to take out a page, okay, blank page, because you all have pen and paper, welcome to the wrong generation, all right? Or your iPhones, get EndNote, okay, type it in there. If I were to ask you to write down the three things, first of all, that were from Friday's plenary session, you'd be like, oh, nuts. Okay, I can get the first one. But all you remember about Friday's plenary session is that Dennis was playing the violin in the corner. You remember that, don't you? All right, but what were the three things? What's hard to remember them? Timbre, tempo, and something else. All right? But that's why, because you haven't had time to chew those over. If you were to go back, or if you were involved in discussions yesterday that were really chewing through those things, they would become much more ingrained. And so our students don't have time to chew things over in a session. It's like you don't have time to chew over everything we're going to say today. So it's not going to be committed to long-term memory. And so today's generations, they surf the web. They cut from this to that, to this to that, and they never actually dig deeply.
But do they want to chew it over? They hear it once, they think they know it, and they don't. You try and teach it again. Who already learned that?
It's a whole other generational thing. That's when you send them to clinic. Sorry, clinicians. Yeah, but that's the truth. Okay, is that they don't. They think that they get it once. I have a daughter who's 10. She's just turned 11. And she is a concert cellist in her mind. We had this argument yesterday with her, go practice your cello. But I know how to play all the songs. Okay, play one for me. It was like a cat was being strangled. It's like, technically you know where the fingers go and you know how to move a bow, but it sounds horrible. Telling you this in love, you're my child. Okay, but this is crazy, but that's her. I know all the songs. I'm further ahead than the other kids. No, you need to be further ahead than you are currently. Not just the other kids. So we have this whole thing with this generation that's going on, and we have unfortunately got to teach them. So what we feel is that the top of their heads is pretty much empty. You're all thinking of individual students. Stop that. Stop it. We'll put a name in that space, just don't, okay? But this is what we think, this is what we are, this is where we live. And the problem is we're looking for higher order brain function. We're looking for synthesis. We're not just looking for comprehension. We're not just looking for repetition. We don't want them just to be able to answer questions. We're looking to see that they understand what we've taught them and that they can apply what we've taught them and that they can take the information that they get and they can pull out all the right pieces and then they can actually do something that's going to be beneficial for the patient. But synthesis takes time. And for some of us, we have undergrads that come through and they just go from undergrad straight into grad school. Okay? It used to be that you did undergrad, then you went out and you visited life for a while, and then you thought, I don't want that, I'm going back into school. And you came back in with some life experience. But we're getting high school seniors going straight into college, coming straight out of university as undergrads, straight into PT programs. And they think it's the same. Bless them. It's like, no. You're going to spend more time in class than you had free last semester. And they don't get that. And so we have to figure out how we can actually work with their skill set. John Donovan and a group of his colleagues in 2013 put this paper together. And it's the 10 most effective learning things. And again, I've got all this stuff is available for you. It's going to be, click it, and it will be there, PDF version for you. All right, I did the work, you don't have to. All right, which is what our students want. So I'm just, you're like, well, that's really nice of you. It's like, that's how they think. All right, and what they said was that there are some high, moderate, and some low methods of learning. And one of the highest methods of learning is called distributed practice. And distributed practice from Donofsky's group is that you go back in and you don't, if you have to study for a test, you don't take 3 hours and study everything you need to know for that test. But that you break those up into small periods of time over a distribution of days. All right, now we all know that because that's what we did. I mean, that's like common sense. Yeah, but our students don't get that. They go, oh, the test is on Thursday, so Wednesday night I'll study. And it's like, no, you need to study a little bit on Sunday, a little bit on Monday, a little bit on Tuesday, because then you'll have chewed it over and put it into your long-term memory. And this is what Donovan says about distributed practice. The problem that we have is, what are they studying? Because they came to your class and they took away your PowerPoints, and if you're really good with PowerPoint, then you only have bullet points and stuff. But if you're concerned that they can't write notes, you put everything that you want them to know on it. All right, I'm not asking for a show of hands. All right, but I've done that as well. Because it's like, they don't take notes, they don't get it. So here, have all of it. And then I only talk about what's important. But you're kind of reliant upon that. Well, what we're going to talk about, and what Skye's going to show us in a few minutes, is about podcasting, recording what you do in class so that they can go back over it later and so that they get exactly what you said. You ever had a student come back in the office and go, so what I heard you say was, like, I really don't think I said that. Well, if you've recorded what you've said, then you can go back to when you said it and you can go, play. Oh, that's what you said. Yes. I just saved you points on a test somewhere. Because what they heard is not what you communicated. So we give them the opportunity to go back over and hear again and again what the things that we said. The second highest is practice tests. Getting them to actually practice and quiz themselves and testing on it from Donovan's work. So I'm going to put a couple of these so you can kind of see what's going on. Moderate success was interleaved practice. And this is where we fold information from pathophysiology into orthopedics. And when we link our orthopedics up into our acute care. Okay, and when we show them that we're connected, because you know, if students come back and it's like, oh, I need to remember anatomy. Oh, okay. I thought this was orthopedics. I didn't think we needed anatomy for orthopedics. Yeah, you don't, and good luck. All right? But that sort of thing. So we interleave, we weave together all of the parts of our program. Another moderate one is self-explanation, having them to explain it. So when you get students to teach small sessions to other students, that's what we're using. We're using a moderate level of learning because they're putting together a presentation to then give it to somebody else. All right? And then the lowest one is highlighting and underlining. So when you give them out your PowerPoint slides and they highlight it and they come away and it looks really pretty. You got those students that have got like 7 colors and they're so color coordinated. Like, oh my goodness me. Chloe's going to love you. All right? But they're all color coded. And we think it looks great. And it's the lowest level of learning. It's shown to be the least effective method of actually learning information. All right? Looks pretty, doesn't work. So those are the things that Donovan and his group said. And you can read through that document. It's about 52 pages worth of information. So you can check out on yourself. So why do we do podcasting? Why do we do, and vodcasting is just video casting, okay? So podcasting is audio recordings and just putting the audios up there. Vodcasting is video capture like this, and then it posts the videos up so they can see what's going on. That's the difference. Why do we do it? Well, it decreases error. Because they can go back and listen to exactly what you said. And in video work, what we've done in some of our video work is that we've filmed our labs, our practical labs. So orthopedics, you're trying to teach a technique in orthopedics. You ever had the students go away and practice and then come back and demonstrate it to you? And you're like, that's going to hurt somebody. It's a lawsuit right there. Okay, well, give them the video, then they can go and do it and watch it. And here's what you're thinking. But hasn't somebody already done that? Yeah, they have. But your students like to see themselves on TV. Narcissism. It's the name of the generation. All right? The selfie. Another word that was brought up by this generation. Okay? We were the generation that tried to throw away photographs that we were in. You ever done that? Okay, when you got them back in hard copy and you're like, oh no, no, no. All right? They're the generation that have to photograph everything they're doing. I'll be like, all right, presenting at a conference. Smile. I've seen those pictures. So we decrease or eliminate errors in terms of playback. Repetition. This distributed practice. You can teach them long after the class is done because they can go back over and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. We take our students every year to Costa Rica for a 2-week missions trip and global ed experience. And I was in the bus one day, we had a 2-hour bus ride. It's like, somebody give me a phone or an iPod and we play some music. And so scanning through their phone, I'm on their phone. Orthopedics, yes sir. Away we go. They're like, seriously? And I'm teaching in the bus. It's great. It's like, they're like, no, turn that off. And I'm thinking, and it struck me that, wow, you actually have me in your phone and your iTunes. Okay, that means that anywhere that you go, you can actually have a learning opportunity because you can take time to review stuff. And so having this repetition is a key thing. Come on, there we go. Clarification. Clarification of points. If the students didn't hear something right or you got it wrong. Anybody ever get anything wrong in a lecture? All the time. It's like, yes, it's always my deliberate mistake. You spotted it, well done. I put that one in there just to see who was listening. Right? I'm glad somebody did. I was getting a little nervous, but I'm glad that you guys got it. But you can clarify things. You can help them understand, okay? And then you can learn. You can get a little bit better in terms of how you explain stuff as well. Because somebody comes back and said, I didn't get that. And you're like, okay, it was just you. Okay, notice by my accent, I actually grew up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, so my accent comes in and out. All right? Well, I tell the students, if more than 50% of you are confused, it's my accent. If less than 50% of you are confused, you just don't understand. It's your learning issue. Okay, so that was my gauge. So you get multiple students coming asking you to change stuff. It's like, oh, okay, maybe I need to change how I'm describing this, how I'm actually teaching this. And then finally, accuracy. If you get those mistakes, you can correct them. But it also means that accuracy in terms of what your students are taking and studying. They're not studying their interpretation of your interpretation of the textbook. They're studying what you said. They're getting exactly what you said. Okay? And they can get it at their time, whatever time, day or night, that they want to get it. All right? They can go back through and listen. But it's kind of an important thing. So what we want to do is we wanted to talk a little bit about podcasting and broadcasting. The idea behind this is basically you capture something now and you consider it later on. So we record what you're doing so that the students can then consider it at a later date. And we've got some technology. The technology that we're using is not high tech. That's PowerPoint right there. All right, that's all that is. That's nothing special or fancy. The podcasting that we use, you can do it through iTunes, you can do it through Podbean, there's different services to podcast. You can just record stuff and stick it up on your learning management system. If you use Blackboard or Canvas or one of those, you can just record it and stick it up there. Students can go and access it. If you don't want to be broadcast over the web, you want other people to find you, then stick it in behind the firewall of your LMS. So the students have to log in to be able to access the files. It will also tell you how many people have accessed the files. All right? Get some analytics on it, see who's actually doing it, listening to it. If you just put it up there and broadcast it, then it's fair game for anybody. I'm going to show you a little bit of that later on. So what we do is we podcast lectures, we broadcast lectures, we film lab sessions, and we basically are creating digital content. We're creating that content so our students can go back, and it's our content, it's us, it's the way that we teach things. What they're going to do is they're going to go back on screen, it doesn't matter what screen, they're going to play it back. So now everything's on the phone. So you can just grab your phone and they can pull up whatever they want and they can watch you. Okay? You can pull up YouTube, we're on there. All over YouTube with stuff, you can go in there and watch it. Get iTunes, okay? And then your LMS. You can even get your content management systems through here. So Blackboard and Canvas, the two that I know mostly, you can access through your phone. So you can get all the content. And that's what we're trying to do. We're creating a venue for students to reconnect with content whenever the class is finished. And Skye's going to show you the practical side of things. All right, she's going to show you the practical side of things, and I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about the web and using wikis. So, Skye.
Well, so it's really awesome to always have to follow Jason. I just really can't. I'm here to act as the minion, essentially. So I'm really lucky. We work at a very small university. We have no video. I don't know. I think it took my, close your slideshow. And I'll go back to now. All right, I'll talk and we'll fix it. We're a good team. So I am not a technological genius. I am a PT educator, but we work at a very small university and we're lucky enough to have this Center for Student Engagement and for Teaching and Learning. So I would just go to all of the free seminars and learn things basically from Jason. So I actually started podcasting by necessity in 2007. I was teaching at Chapman University in California and we had Witch Creek fires. So Chapman is in Orange and I was living in San Diego. And the fire was literally going over and across the Interstate 5 highway, so I couldn't get to work. So I had to, figure out a way to deliver content to my students. So what I was doing at the time was using a digital tape recorder and taping my voice, and then I would put it up on Blackboard. And it was something that I thought I would do once or twice. Well, what actually wound up happening was a lot of the students said, we should do this all the time because I can listen to it again, all the reasons that Jason mentioned that I don't want to have to repeat. It's a bad teaching strategy. So when I came to Marymount, I knew that I wanted to continue doing voice recording, and there was just a lot more technology that you could use for that. And then I also wanted to start getting into video casting, and it was a very scary premise to me to try to do that, because I do not want myself with my face and students to be able to watch that. So you can do that, you can use a tripod or you can use a Swivl and things like that, but I prefer just to have my slides with my voice in the background so that they get that personal touch and they can see, right? So Jason has gone over a lot of educational theory, which is fantastic. I am much more simplistic than he is. So when a student can actually see what you are describing, and I teach anatomy, so that's a big piece of the puzzle, and hear you at the same time, they get a little bit of buy-in. I also like to do motor control, motor learning, so I actually will color on the slide, so it's real time when they're actually watching it. So it has really changed the way that I teach. It also enables me to do a lot of flipped classrooms, so I do both where I will have lectures that are recorded prior to the classes. So when I teach anatomy, it's a 6-credit class. And I will have a Tuesday and a Wednesday where there's actual content delivery for them. And on Thursday, they're all active learning, problem-based learning scenarios that they do in the classroom. So they will have to have listened to content before they actually come in. And then there's no content delivered to them at that time, and we problem solve together. So they work in small groups, but I rotate throughout the room and help with that. So, and then I also video record every single lecture that I deliver. So I have 2 folders that I embed we now switched to Canvas. So I have video recorded lectures, and then I also have what I call flipped learning classrooms, so things they have to watch as an assignment before they come in. So, as a shameless plug, I want to talk a little bit about podcasting, and it's a good shameless plug because it's a student-derived project. Podcasting is great because students can listen to them in their car. I really wouldn't want somebody doing a video capture on their phone while they were driving. I've had the same experience. I've had students who put their iPod on shuffle and by accident will get my voice coming through to them while they're at the gym. I can't think of anything scarier than that. Or to crush your endorphin rush. So that's one of the, I think, one of the benefits that still that podcasts lend themselves. And it's the magic of radio. You know, if they can't see you, you look like a supermodel, especially if you have a really good voice. So we have a student that has developed this PT Pintcast, and I encourage you to go to all of your the website and encourage all of your students and any clinicians and faculty that you know this is Pete the Pintcast. But just so you can listen to what a good podcast sounds like. And mine are not going to be.
These 4 PTs access and watch clinically relevant content for as low as $7.95 a month, with channels ranging from orthopedic prep to applied.
Let's skip forward.
Came back to the
Sharon,
then engaged in it and making your future what you want it to be, and the APTA is the place to do that. And I am thrilled when I see early career and new professionals get engaged at a level of the organization where they're already making those kind of inroads and impacting the future. Lots of early career professionals in the House of Delegates this year, and they show up, and they don't just show up, they show out. So I am really excited about the future because of that level of engagement and energy.
Well, what else excites you? I mean, things are kind of changing right now. It's always kind of a fluid environment. What are some things that excite you about the profession right now?
Right now, I love the healthcare reform environment, the one that we're rushed.
All right, well, you can hear it yourself for free, but you can change your podcast up and you can do interview style. You can have your students create podcasts. So you don't have to do a website, right? As Jason mentioned, like me, who's low tech, I simply record a podcast, I embed it in Blackboard. If you have problems, sometimes your university has small allotment to the amount of content you can put on there. So I have created a YouTube channel, but it's behind our firewall. So it's not that anybody can search me on YouTube, and if they did, they would be very disappointed by what I have on YouTube. But that's a very easy way to just put things up so that students can go back to them. And then it's in the cloud, and the students can get it forever. So as nerve-wracking as that sounds to some people, it actually works out well. So this platform that I'm using, I just want to introduce, it's called Smart Technology. I don't know if you've ever seen a smart board where you have it, you can touch the board. I just have this on my laptop. So it's not incredibly expensive, but what I like about it is it has this little recording feature. So now it's recording off the microphone in my laptop, and it will record anything that I do on my screen. So it's a cheap hacker's way. If you have Smart, I could show a PowerPoint slideshow, but I just turn on the recorder at the bottom in Smart. I can show a website, and it records everything on my laptop. The other thing that I use it for a lot is I can draw over the top of it, and all that is then saved for my students. So it also has features where I can have students actually come up and type things in for us. So if we're doing problem-based learning, they can come in and they can alter their own slideshow, and then I can record that all for them. So this is what I use to do my recordings that I have embedded in YouTube. So I'll just show you one of those as an example. Do a little anatomy.
We're looking at layers and not really knowing what they were looking at. So we have 4 layers on the bottom of the foot.
Many of you, hopefully this isn't news to anyone.
In an actual graphic, because you think about one thing when you see it in a cartoon drawing, but then when you see it actually in front of like, whoa, that does fit on both sides. All right. This will flex 2, 3, 4, 5, because there isn't one of them going to the big toe. The big toe is flex or else as long as. Okay. We'll talk about the nerves in a little bit.
But I
That's
wanted
really
to show you, so
cool.
I can color in for them real time as they're going through this. So my students go
Question,
back,
this is not a plantar muscle of the foot that I'm drawing in here.
and they'll have this open, and they will
And then
actually
here's
be
your
coloring
needle
in
list.
themselves while they're doing this, if they can't handle it
Remember
at the same
we're
time
talking
that they are in
about
class. But they had the opportunity to go back and kind of see
So
exactly
dig.
what I was able to do
Okay.
for them in class. All right,
So
so
punch
that's
around the needle
one of the
list.
platforms that I use.
That's called smart technology.
Smart technology. So what you need to do is you need to have not the smart board, you need to have the actual software on your computer. Or you could go into a classroom if your classrooms have it, if they don't give you a site license, and you can record yourself inside of the classroom. So like I said, this one was actually a recording of me at my house. And then we did a learning activity the next day where we talked all about different foot deformities and orthopedic issues associated with muscle weaknesses and or neuropathies. And so they had to watch this before they came in. And then I was giving them scenarios the next day. Whereas I also have ones that I literally just hit the red record button while I'm standing just like now in a lecture scenario with the students. So I just capture it. So if they have those moments where they are taking a little mental nap during class, they can go back and it's really easy to just scroll across the bottom so they can listen to the 5 minutes where they were not necessarily paying the best attention during the class. The other thing that I like to use this for, because I'm a one-trick pony, unlike Jason,
And then go all the way up to
down
this
here, is I use it to grade papers as well. So
There we go, to scroll. Okay, so starting out, really minor stuff. First, when you start citing words starting et al, if you're using AMA format, the number goes right after the et al, so you would have like the 1 superscript right there.
So this has helped me tremendously because I'm tired of writing notes in the margin and the students say, I have no idea what that means.
When you say
All right, and also for
format. If you
writing and grading of papers, the literature says actually, and it's great for us, is we give way too much feedback to the students and then they don't take ownership of the writing. So they feel like we are their personal editors. So what the literature says is that you should take a good sentence in the paper and tell the student, this is how I'd like you to model, or a paragraph, the rest of your paper. But you write that on some of the students' papers and they're like, I have no idea what that means. That means the rest of my paper must be perfect because she didn't write anything else. Likewise, they say you should take one that is a little bit more challenging to read and it doesn't dive deep enough into understanding of the content, or it's just poorly written. So they say, you just rewrite that one, and then you say, okay, model this for the rest. And of course, the student sees no more red pen, so they say, oh, I'm done here. So this is a good way for me to do a little quick 2-minute video, and the student has it, and they can keep going back to it as they're writing. So I don't have to go in and tell her every single time she messed up that citation, right? So I just say to her, look at the rest of your paper because you have it. I did this for me, mostly, and the students loved it. And we do case reports in our program, and it actually impacted the grades of the case reports significantly. So we were pretty happy with that outcome as well. And then Jason uses Camtasia. This is a completely separate type of program. So this is if you like to see yourself inside of your presentation.
In this presentation, I want to talk through some of the basic points involved in the research poster, and some of the technical details.
So you can have your little talking head up there, and this particular program also allows you to go back and create a lot of refinement after you're actually done. Mine is just a simple recorder, so it records whatever I have done in that particular time period. Whereas Camtasia, you can add a lot more fancy bells and whistles to it.
I have a question.
Yes.
How are you addressing ADA requirements for text reinforcements of your audio content?
That is actually an interesting question that just came across my desk. So I have a accompaniment where we have a service within the university that can transmit it over into text for us, should we need that. I have been able to get past it because I haven't had anybody that's needed all the text yet. So we haven't had a particular student that's had that learning challenge. So it's something that I have to kind of think about ahead of time.
If you use YouTube, YouTube will have has a closed captioning that you can just click on and off and built into it. It's a little rough here and there, but you know, at least it's something that's quick and easy. But I haven't had a student come and ask about it yet and deal with it yet. But
What do you think is the feasibility, should you have a student arrive, can use that support of converting your materials to make it accessible?
I would love to have it because then we've got it and the university will pay for it. I mean, my approach is that when we need that, then we need it. And we have some students with visual impairments that are in undergrad at the minute, and so we have methods of doing that. But for me, I feel like when we get to that point in PT, yeah, we need to have that available. Then we need to have it available. I have had legally blind students as students before through PT school, and we had to make modifications to goniometers and all sorts of things. And so yeah, there is the technology now to do it. It's an extra step. So what it would mean for that student is that whilst I can upload this tonight, you might not get it until tomorrow night. It's just it's a day's delay. So you set the parameters then in terms of what the student can expect, and you operate within that expectation.
Also, our student learning services, I don't even know how they do what they do, but we have a student right now with severe visual and auditory difficulties. And our student learning services knew she was coming in, about 6 to 8 months ahead of time, and the programs that they've implemented for her, I obviously didn't know existed, but she's being very successful.
It's
definitely out there,
yeah.
just that we're very lucky that our student learning services center, people they just know what's out there,
Right.
so they signed everything up for her.
If you're at an institution, I would either check with the Student Access Services or the equivalent, because they're the ones that handle all the disabilities on campus. And so not just ramps and that sort of stuff in terms of accessibility, but they also have all of the technology for that. Or your Center for Teaching and Learning, they would probably have it as well. Yes.
We've actually been mandated at the university level for everything that we have a student not have any period and discussion.
That's fine. Awesome. Use that mandate to get them to purchase what you need.
Everybody feels it is awesome because they have to go and take everything off the blackboard and make everything that they've created. I mean, I know we're happening with people who've been in it for 20 years. You take everything out, make everything unique, and it's a process.
Right. Oh, it is. It is a process. Once you get, I mean, this is a process. This is us. I mean, you're seeing the middle of us. This is not the beginning. So don't judge your beginning by our middle. Because this has been growing over years from just handheld recorders. Is what it first was, with all my sarcasm and everything that I had to kind of edit out.
I don't edit my ads, yeah,
But yeah, if you're being mandated by the university, then you also need to go back to the university and say, hey, love that you want us to do that. Now give us the tools to do it. So
the state is actually audited,
yeah.
So it's not even. And your PowerPoints and things that you're utilizing are not ADA compliant, or they are.
From what we have.
Yeah,
depends on disability.
Because we are actually been trying to get into the essential functions piece of our curriculum to speak to some of that. Yours is saying that you have somebody who had auditory and visual deficits, and so it's been University of Cincinnati is going through. I mean, we were tagged on audit. There were a lot of universities that they're in trouble.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
We've heard it on our 100% online curricula more than our blended or
And that's what happened. What happened is the universities will start that, and then they'll bring the technology in. You know. Now the difference here is that we're not. This is not just their. We're not. This is not the only delivery of the information to the students. So there's a little difference because this is not the sole delivery method. The delivery method is in class. So you don't want to. You want to be compliant. Don't do it. That, you know, that's the first step. At which point, you know, administrators will be going, but that's a help to students. Yes, it is. But okay, so that you got to walk that line with your institution. But there's people who that's what they do. So like in my office in the CTL, we have somebody that does all the ADA stuff. Whenever I get a call, I'm like, okay, can you help me with this? So that's how we go.
So to wrap up a couple of things, we're not going to go through all this different technology, but for vodcasting, you can use WebEx to do the same kind of thing where you can share your desktop and you can have, you know, create virtual meetings with your students. I happen to use smart technology. If you Max QuickTime, does the same exact thing that Smart does, so you can just record what is ever on your screen. Camtasia, we showed that. That was the little speaking, talking head of Jason up in the corner. ScreenFlow and Panopto are two other systems that a lot of universities use. Panopto, I adjuncted George Washington University, and they use Panopto primarily, which is a lot like Camtasia. So it's in every single classroom, so you just physically turn it on when you get in there. EduCreations, I'm also have a Scottish background, not as much as Jason's Irish background, but I'm thrifty. EduCreations is free, and they use it in, I have children who are in elementary school as well. And I actually have the students create 5-minute tutorials, very much like Khan Academy. So I have had that as an assignment in my class for the past couple of years. And then I create a repository of the students' 5-minute videos that they do. And those all go up, and then the students can listen to their fellow students teach them about VO2 Max instead of them having to trudge through the textbook. Or they can have the textbook in front of them and be listening and looking at the same time. So EduCreations is a lot like Smart. It's free, and you can sign up for an account, so you get to do, you know, like 30 videos yourself before they charge you. And it is a right-on tablet screen capture with voice, so it doesn't have any actual video of you on it. Yes?
So to be able to use the smart technology piece, I did what you suggested. You might be doing. I went on my phone, but it looks like you need to have a tablet or something that is touch screen or that has a pen if I want to be able to write on it.
It helps, yeah.
Correct, yes.
Because otherwise I cannot edit anything.
Yeah, you can't overwrite without a touch screen. So I mean, an iPad will do.
Yeah.
You know, or any tablet, or I mean, Skye has a touch screen laptop, so anything like that.
But you don't, I mean, I use it in order to edit because of what the content that I teach. It helps me, or even if I just have straight graphs that I'm showing, you know, I'll draw over the line and show the students how things change, like the hemoglobin saturation curve and things like that. But I know plenty of people that just simply want to capture their material and they don't write anything. They just deliver a PowerPoint presentation and just simply record it. So it just, you know, makes it a little bit nicer. So, you know, to be a little bit more typical, like a talk you thought you might be coming to, where someone's standing up here telling you about their data. This is just from one class. So when I would just do my podcasts, I would average in a class of, we had 36 in this class, I would average between 20 and 40 per lecture, about 20 to 40 listens for that. Okay, once I got into the smart video casting from anatomy class, I would get 55 to 80 just in that semester. Now I'm up to, so this is sort of old data, now that I'm up to, and the students are getting ready to take the boards, and when they're in orthopedics, I'm up into the hundreds. So they always have that content because it's on YouTube. So they have that link. So they will go back and say, I thought there was 3 layers of the bottom of the foot. And it will help them. And they can do it in 5 minutes because they said, I forgot that we had a flexor hallucis longus. And they can just go right to that point, hear what I had to say about it, if that means anything to them. And then they can sort of integrate it back into their classes. So I've gotten some great reviews from students just saying, we're so happy that we still have this content, you know, that we can also duck in the back in the clinic and maybe look up when my CI asked me what dermatome I was actually testing. I could look it up real quick. I also have a really nice relationship when Jason moved over into the CTL. Our new orthopedics instructor that came in told me that he listened to every single one of my anatomy lectures, and then he used them all in order to have that overlap and the interleafing. And he would bring the anatomy back into his orthopedics class. So he would say, okay, I remember Skye taught you X, Y, and Z, and she gave you this scenario in class. And he would embed it into his lecture, which was really nice. So then, and he would also have the links to my class if you need to remember, because we're doing application now, but if you need to remember the foundational knowledge, this is where you might be able to find it. So these are just some of the examples that you will have available to you on Jason's fantastic webpage. So I will let the master come back up. The minion is done.
Any questions on that so far? Just drop this back on here. Questions for podcasting? Yes.
So you both seem to have very good personalities and tell jokes and things like that. So what happens when you accidentally say something maybe you shouldn't, and then now it's out there and you don't necessarily want it to be out there?
Well, you ultimately determine when it's delivered.
Okay.
So you've recorded it, you can go back and edit it.
So on most of those programs, there is an ability to erase some
Yeah.
pieces, things like that.
Yeah, when I started doing it, I would just use a desktop recorder. I would always forget to turn off the recorder at the end of the class. So you get the student coming up to you going, listen, I'm sorry I couldn't be here, but I had to go to the clinic. And I would sort of listen to the podcast and make sure I didn't say anything, and then you would get that saying, okay, we need to delete that. All right? And edit that. So I would always put edited material up. I would always just, kind of change that, overdub, hit pause, hit silent, go in and adjust the audio stuff. So again, it's you're in class. A live audience is so different. You react to what people do and how people are. At least I do. And it's like sometimes it's out there, but it's like, oh no, get those words out. You can't do it. It's like, oh, okay, cut that off the recording. So yeah, I always add it personally. Yeah.
So time, if you're doing it in class while you're doing it, you may have an hour class that you after class have to view yourself for an hour to kind of.
No, I'll know when I screwed up.
You know which is okay.
I remember it's like, oh, damn, mentally it'll go through my head, and I'll be like, oh, no.
But it is really good though for your own self-assessment coming from a program chair's perspective. So we use it as well. It's horrifying, but in the beginning we use it for faculty to do their own self-assessment.
Yeah. Other questions?
Questions, yeah.
Well, that was just one of my questions. Like, you guys obviously are experts at this, so did you, as a faculty, does your whole faculty
No, I wish
embrace
that they
this?
did, no. We are trying, every single faculty now audio records themselves, and literally sometimes Jason and I have to go in and hit play on the computer for them. We are lucky, because we saw the value, and Jason is largely helpful in making purchases for the technology at the university from the teaching standpoint, and we have smart in every single classroom, and I just keep telling I will come into your class and I will hit the record button for you, and it will just hover in your screen in the right-hand corner. And they are like, I don't know how to put it up on YouTube. And I said, I can help you with that as well. So it's a process.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Which all classes, what about like psychosocial classes where there's in class discussion that may be sensitive and gaps behind a firewall, but if the board is certain.
Yeah, you can be selective. We don't do this
we
for
don't do it
everybody.
for
I mean, we don't do this with all sessions and stuff, but you gotta know what's going to translate well. Because if it's not going to translate well, if you got a faculty without personality,
No, we don't do it for all the
they
classes.
don't translate well. All right? So yeah, you just got to be mindful. Now we have done video recordings of group discussions and tutorial sessions, where it's just discussing a case. Because then that's interesting. Because the students always say, well, the other group did this. Well, let me film the other group, and you can see that they just talk about it the way that you talk about it. So we've done stuff like that. Well, you just got to be wise with it. Again, just because I've recorded it doesn't mean it automatically goes up. I'm still in control of whether or not I put that session up. And I'll tell students that something happened that didn't work. All right, because I just kind of edit out all of the stuff that I said. So yeah, and that's fine. They're okay with that. Yes.
So one of the things that all of our students have iPads.
Yes.
Part of their entrance into the program, into their fees and all the rest of that stuff. So one of the things that we were finding, because they all have iPads, we really, and they had to use them in class, we don't do handouts anymore, everything's up.
Right.
We had no clue who
for their sole individual educational purpose only. And if they are posted on YouTube, that it is a violation of our privacy policies.
Okay.
So that we try to, because as a teaching technique, I'm demonstrating something using bad body mechanics. And I'm doing it because I want them to critique what I'm doing. That's not what I want on YouTube, but what she's doing. So.
We come out from the other side, where they're not allowed to record us unless they ask.
So we used to do that, but we felt that because all of our students have an iPad, and so many of them want to capture it so that they can go home, we felt that we're at a point now that we had to go from both ways, because it's almost impossible to know who's taping and who's not. I don't want to spend my time in class saying what's on your screen right now. So that's how we chose it.
Yeah, we go the road of, if you want to film it or you want to record us, then you have to ask them to give us permission. And then what we started, the way that we got around them all trying to film it is that I started to film all my stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm the one who's closest to the microphone, I'm going to have the best image, so I'll make it all available to you. And then when I made it available to them, they realized that they didn't have to do it. So it kind of, you know.
We're trying to get there, but as an interim step, some of them, I really want to capture that.
And then what we did was, I took when I transitioned into the Center for Teaching and Learning, we had a person come in to take over orthopedics. And I spent a semester filming my entire semester of labs and created all the videos of all the techniques and everything that we did. Part of that was for whoever the new person was, I want to be able to say, here's what we do. You know, so because I didn't know how much time I was going to be able to get to talk with them. So here's what we do. If you want it, use it. If not, great, do your own thing. But then we started to say to the students, it's there, go watch it. And they would see us doing the same techniques, and so they actually stopped filming after a while. But it is a problem. And you own you. I mean, you own your image, so you got to make sure that they're, you know, it's not out there. I do have a little soundbite clip of one of our faculty saying, "Oh, well, there's another brain fart," and I throw that into meetings every now and then. You know, because it was off one of the end of her podcast that she gave to me and said, "Could you edit this and take out anything that I said that I shouldn't have said?" I took that out and kept it. So, you got to be mindful of it. With podcasting and broadcast, so you're recording and capturing whatever you've done, you're putting it out there so that they can then use it at a later date. The other thing that we've done, I know it's triple with this thing. The other thing that we have done at Marymount was I started a wiki site, and wiki is a bad word in PT education because everybody thinks of Wikipedia and all that stuff, but it's essentially, wikis were created in the 90s so that technicians, engineers could actually share information with each other. That's where they came about. And in 2009, across the street in the conference center, when we had the APTA conference, was the summer conference here, Eric Robertson, who's based out in California now, did a session on creating websites and wikis. And I went back home thinking I could do that. And so what I decided to do was to try and use collaboration to help and aid in learning. And so that's what I want to talk about real quick and show you a site. Technical issues.
Yeah, when technology goes bad.
You got lots of technology. Okay, let's go to slide. So, what you have, or what I did was, in orthopedics, I had a paper assignment. And that paper assignment was essentially just, it would be to pick a clinical condition and to write about it. What's the literature say? The typical standard paper assignments that you would have in a course. Well, the problem with paper assignments, you get quality work in and you get not so quality work in, okay? And then you try and make sure that they're all quality. But you're getting students that are trying to find the most recent information, the most recent literature on it, and they're giving you some good stuff, all right? The problem is it's an audience of one. You read it, you put it on your floor. At least that's what I did. I had a pile of things on my office floor, and that was where old papers went to die. Nobody ever saw the value or the benefit of that. And I thought, what if I could take that information that these guys are working hard for, that I'm critiquing, that I am then editing and going in and saying, this is good, this is bad, change this, rewrite this, redo this, and put it into a format where the audience was not just one, but the audience was many. And that's what wiki sites allow you to do. And a wiki site is essentially collaborative learning space where you can create a page and you can create content. So I thought, oh, I can do that. So I did a little research on wikis and looked at a couple and thought, okay, what would I do? What would be the content? Because the page is only as good as the content that's on it. And I looked at score builders, you know, the score builders test books, and I thought, how do they do stuff? You know, I wanted it to be valuable for my students. I wasn't thinking any wider than them. And in score builders, they have these clinical syndromes, and they have a standard sort of format that they would lay out for the clinical, the background, the anatomy, the special tests, all this stuff. And it was a way for students to, you know, learn in a page what you do with a frozen shoulder, real quick, so to prep them for the lecture. I thought, well, I like the idea, I like the layout. We had the guys from Score Builders come in and did a session for us, so I said, do you mind if I borrow the layout, you know, and just like take the headings? Don't need the information, I just want the headings. All right, fine, you know, whatever, then thinking of it. And so, what I did was, in 2010, I created a wiki site, and I asked each of my students to pick a clinical syndrome, and I picked them. I just sat down and made a list of different things. And by clinical syndrome, I mean, like, you know, upper limb injuries, you know, frozen shoulder, shoulder dislocation. Work your way down. Start at the top, go all the way down, think of as many things as you can think of that students would be interested in and that they could find information on. And I just created all these things. And I asked them to pick a page. And they then took that page and they started to then develop the information on that page. And so their written assignment wasn't on paper, it was submitted to me online. It was submitted to me, here's my page. But the beauty of doing a web page was that not only did they have written text, they could pull images from anywhere on the web that would link and embed into it, and they could pull video. Video that they had shot and video that somebody else had shot. And so again, through the collaborative power of wikis, they could create something that was not just text, but it was visuals, was video, was the best practice, the best way to... Uh-oh. I answered those in class.
Yeah.
When a student does, like, hi, yeah, she's in class right now? Yeah. Talk to so many mothers. Oh, sorry. Can you just tell her? No, I'm not taking a message. So we wanted to do this. So in 2010 we started, and then in 2011, you know, I had another class. And you got 36 students, so I had 35 pages were created in 2010. Another 35 in 2011. And gradually this has built up to 2014. Last year we did our most recent set of 35 pages. The way that we initially structured this was, again, taken straight from Score Builders. I'm giving all credit to them. In their clinical syndromes, they have description, anatomy, incidence and prevalence, clinical presentation, clinical radiologies, diagnostic tests, number 7 and number 8.
Treatment and use of modalities.
There we are. Use of modalities.
I mean therapeutic technologies.
It was 2010. All right, we called them modalities back then. All right, so that was how they did it. So I said to the students, here's your headings. Take your shoulder dislocation, your bicarb lesion, whatever it is, fill in these headings. And so they did. They went and started to find information and find all this stuff. And what we created down over in the corner there, morphopedics.com is what we created. Some of your students may use this site. You may have issues with this site. If so, I didn't create it. Somebody else did. So we created Morphopedics because, I call it Morphopedics because it was a morphing of technology in orthopedics. That's where the name came from. And this morning, it was 2010. All right? That's how we got there. And so I set up a welcome page, a contents page. We have student authorship, but we have student authorship with faculty oversight. And we created something that ended up with a worldwide audience. So hopefully we can go there. So if you go to morphopedics.com, it will sometimes come up as morphopedics.wikidot.com. This is the site that we... This is the site that we created. And in the creation of it, we wanted our students to go... Again, it works in the classroom, in our building, and it doesn't always work here. So this is the site. Morphopedics, M-O-R-P-H-O, see that was a translation issue, that was you did 50% thing, okay? So what we had was clinical syndromes. And that's where I started. And there's 80-something different clinical things up there, all orthopedic based. Then I had a faculty member who was like, hey, that's really cool, can we do clinical effectiveness guidelines? I'm like, I don't know what they are, but yes. if you want to do that, then you can. So she started to do it in her course, where she was looking at some research stuff, and so we started to create some clinical effectiveness guidelines. Most recently, we've done joint evaluation and therapeutic exercise. So I went to the students and was like, well, what do you guys think you need on this site? They're like, joint evals. We go to the clinic, we have no idea. But she just says, okay, you got a shoulder in 20 minutes. They want to go somewhere and see what do I do? And so they did it, and they filmed all the special tests. They put it up there, it's all of that. And then the therapeutic exercise, I don't really like at the minute. I'm going to redo it, but you know, I asked the students to do 3 stretches and 3 strengthening exercises for basically top to toe. And so they're up there. It's okay. It's not great, all right? But I got another class in, and we'll make a new one, all right? And so let me just show you one thing that we've got. So let's go to clinical syndromes. So clinical syndromes: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacroiliac, miscellaneous stuff I didn't know where to put. Peripheral joints, upper limb, lower limb, and then miscellaneous stuff down here. So let's take lateral ankle sprains. Just randomly picking it. So here's a student, Eli Rodriguez. If you live in San Diego, you'll welcome him. He's just moved out there to start clinical work. So this is his assignment. Pictures, text, again, classifications, incidence prevalence, clinical presentations, diagnostic tests, videos, all that stuff. And then we added in some management, some PT management that's in there. So over the years it's grown. Additional web resources, other people that do it much better than us. And then, of course, you've got the reference list. So it's just like a written assignment, except it no longer sits in my office floor, it now is out there on the web. Now, here's what you're all thinking. That's really scary because everybody in the world can see it. Yes, they can. And so you've got to make sure that the information that's up there is valid. But why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be valid? If you've accepted it and given it an A in your class, then you're basically saying this work is good. So why shouldn't the world then be able to access it and see it? As long as it's written appropriately, referenced appropriately, and you can then make it available. Yes?
Do you make this intentionally available to your clinical instructors?
It's available to the world.
Yeah,
And I've sent it out to you.
You can go and get it right now. Yeah.
Invite them, yeah. And so my question is, because we've had the clinics that wanted us to send like new articles on things, and the fact is that all we can do is send them links to the abstracts. Is that what that is?
Some of them are links to the abstract, some of them are links to full text PDFs. It depends what you can find on the web. If you can find the full PDF online, and you just link to that page. So you just send them, you're just basically, this is the path to go, and you're putting the path on there. Now we did this just for fun. I did this just for kicks, all right? Now you're wondering where are we at with it? Roughly 70,000 hits a month on this page, this site, which is scary. I didn't write most of it. My lectures and stuff are up there, so my students can get that, but it's not on that. Because students then go and they Google, shoulder problems, all right? It pops up, all right? We have on there a number of places, disclaimers about stuff and all that, but what has happened is that I've received a bunch of emails from basically ordinary people from all over the world saying, I have this problem, and how can I help? And I'm like, where are you at? And it's the first question. And they're in upstate New York. And I'll go on to APTA's website and look for a clinician in upstate New York. And I go there if they're in the States. They're all over the world. I just go to find a PT, find a physio. I can't help you. I can give you other information, but for us, it's another way for the students to collaborate. What the students do with this is they go home at Christmas and they tell their families, hey, look, I wrote this. It gives them some work. It also gives them some pride in what they've done. And so it helps them know that they're teaching other people. Now, when it comes to exam time, when it comes to, licensure prep stuff, this site gets hammered because, as I say, it follows the same pattern as the score builders text. So it's in that sort of format. I didn't do it for that. There's There's no advertising on the site. I did put the PT Pintcast logo in the top corner of the homepage, all right, because he's my student, and we talked about the podcast thing before he launched it. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll give him a little nod there. There's no advertising on it. I don't take any finances for it. There's no payment at all for it. It's completely educational. Now, educators, throw this out there to you. You guys can think about this. You can, if you want, send me an email, we'll talk about collaboration, how your students can add. Because that's what the whole point of wikis is, to collaborate. Physiopedia, you've heard of that? Biggest wiki sites, they wanted to buy this, and I said, no, go away. I said, I'll play, but I won't sell it. Because it wasn't for sale, it was for fun, it was for students to be able to do work. I didn't want to be restricted on it. But I think that it's a chance for us as clinicians to kind of say, hey, we've gone back through, you've reviewed some of the sites. If you review one of the pages and there's wrong information on it, please email me, I'll change it. There's hundreds of pages on there. I got an email the other day, we had the subtalar joint biomechanics wrong. I'm like, we always get that wrong. Everybody gets that wrong. Which version of wrong is it, you know? And it was wrong, it was backwards. And so I just went in, edited it, changed it, sent the guy an email, thanked him very much, you know? So he was a collaborator. So a couple of questions from the back first before we continue.
Do you have to do an authorization before it's published on here, or how does that work with the students' information?
With them working on it, they developed the site, they developed the page, and then I can make it live. I can make it hidden and I can make it live. So I have the control to do that. And I can take it down in an instant. And I have done. All right? And what I do is I give them limited control. And once the time limit, once their submission date has occurred, they can't access the site anymore as an author. They can access it as a viewer, so then I can see the history. So I can see who changed what and who did what. I can also see if they changed something on somebody else's page, because that can happen, because it's an open, you can go into all the pages. I can see the history. I can see who did what work. Oh, I see that you didn't actually write your page. So, yes, one.
I think I'm a little, I would appreciate a little clarification on what your message is. You've done this really cool thing, and it's wonderful our students can now access that. From a pedagogy standpoint, is the important part that the student creates the page and the information, or is it just that you've already done the work, now you want us to send our students to this so they can use it as a resource? Could you help me with that?
The first one. What I would love to see is I'd love to see other places use this type of technology as a way for their students to collaborate. So if you're doing student presentations, class presentations, that instead of them just being lost on the day of the presentation, they could be captured, and you could begin to build a repository within your program to show the next set of students to come through what they did, or to highlight some of the research that you're doing. We have a student research day, so our students prepare posters. So to create a place where you can use that. I just did it because of an assignment, but I would love to use the technology as a method of collaboration. And you can do it where it's closed.
Yeah, I think it would be very helpful for me to hear what FERPA implications are from a release standpoint.
Right.
It sounds really cool and really creative, but something that I don't know about how we capture it correctly and don't abuse the students' work.
Yeah. You can close the whole thing so it's only accessible by members. So the students, currently this site is open, but you can't author unless you're a member. So you have to submit to become a member, and that comes through me. So I let my students become members, but nobody else. I could close it so that the only people that could see it are members. So only my students who have membership can see it. So then it becomes a completely internal site.
So your point is that you would like to see us use this technology for our own students, not go to your website necessarily to try to not have our students go there, even though they probably already know.
I don't.
Do the task.
If they go there, that's fine. I don't mind whoever uses that. That's separate to me. But for you guys, I think as educators, I just wanted to show you another way of getting your students to collaborate together using a technology that they might be more interested in doing than just a group assignment. Because I've done this with undergrads as a group assignment, and it's been a closed site. Nobody else has seen it. But again, it's trying to think if that's how they think. If they think in images, they think in videos, they think in short pieces, well then let's create our assignments where they can use those skills. So they can tell the story of what we want them to tell, in a way that they like to tell it. And again, you can close it down. You can really tighten it all the way up so nobody else sees it. And then as soon as it's done, you can delete it. So it is versatile that way. I don't mind if people go and use this or not. I don't get anything from it. So, but, yeah.
So how much space does this cost you to store? I mean, this seems like with videos and podcasts and all that kind of stuff.
For this site I pay $150 a year.
Okay, and how much space do you get for that? Seems like a lot.
I got a lot of space on it. I'm nowhere near the quota for that. So I just went to the professional grade on this. Because I have other sites that I use on this on my account. So it's not a space issue. You could do the same thing through your learning management system.
Right.
You could use the Canvas or Blackboard in terms of that as well. So that's another way to do it. Yes?
So we use a fair amount of collaborative web-based stuff in our program. And what's nice about what you've offered is that there are layers of assignments. I think that you could reapproach the same content and accomplish some other learning objectives. Information and digital literacy being one of them. So my question for you is, I notice on those sites there's a lot of copyrighted images where there are links to external sites that are commercial sites. So are your students engaging in a process of understanding Creative Commons and rights of use?
Yeah.
And is that part of what you're doing in this assignment? Is that a learning outcome for your students?
It is. It's whenever I talk with them, I talk with them about copyright and ownership. What's the difference between downloading an image and linking to an image? What's the difference in what's going to get you in trouble, what's not going to get you in trouble, what's gray? This part of digital literacy and stuff there's a lot of gray in the law. I sat down with our library, that's your resources, your library people, they know all this stuff. And so I sit down with them and say, okay, what's legal, what's not legal? For us, we don't download images and re-upload them because that's an ownership thing. So we've linked to them, but then we've also put the links that you'll see underneath some of the images are the links to where the image is.
Right. So for example, I saw a link to a dermatonal image that came from Netter's text.
Right.
But I saw the image in the page.
Right.
But the link is not from Netter, it's from a backpain.com site. So to me, are your students looking at the layers of ownership when they're choosing to select that as the external link?
Yes.
Is that part of your learning outcomes for this assignment? Or I'm just curious.
It's not an official part, it's just part of it happens. We didn't put it into, you will learn this, but it's part of understanding how to create in a digital age that we do with them. Because we then help them to see whenever they start to look at other things, and they go onto the web to look for stuff for other assignments. Okay, what's the string mean? Okay, who took it from where to where to where? Where's the original? Where's the source image? And so to get them to follow it back to find out the credibility of the source image, as opposed to just somebody's blog site.
I see it as a nice, for this idea, a nice potential for a reflective assignment. They can have
Write it
content
down.
and then now there's a separate outcome with this thing. It's just that multiple ways to use the same resource to do different things.
Yeah. Oh, she has to get a flag. See you later. So what we tried to do, okay, do you not do that with your students? No, you don't pick on them whenever they go out at night? She was in my discussion group on Friday morning, that's okay. We're cool, we're cool. What we've tried to do today is to help you see that what you do, you don't need to change. You can do what you do in the classroom on Monday morning, and by just using technology in a slightly different way, by adding in a different program, the programs that Skye talked about, Smart Notebook is the program that you can download onto your computer. The latest version, there's a cost to. Version 2 or 3 versions back, it's free. It does the same thing. All right, a couple of buttons have changed, but that's it. I was thinking about the question that came about, do you need a tablet to be able to write on it? Actually, you don't. You can just use the mouse. And you can use the mouse just to draw on the pages. So Smart Notebook is one. Smart Notebook is the brains that drives smart boards. And I don't know if your colleges use them, but the smart podiums, that's the same, it's all the same technology. It's all from the same company. SMART, capital letters, that's their trademark name. It doesn't mean intelligent, it's just, I don't know what they call it. So that's what they did. With podcasting and vodcasting, choose a platform. Choose a platform. Not everybody wants their face or their voice out on iTunes. And so, again, you can tighten that up. You can just make it an internal thing to your LMS. Not everybody wants a YouTube channel. Okay, Skye's YouTube channel is closed. The YouTube channel that is linked to the Morphopedic site is open. Okay, so all the videos that we have there are all open access. And when we created the site, we created it with the students. It's like, yep, this is how it works, and everybody signed off on that. All right, so we have a bunch of YouTube traffic that's coming through. None of this, in fact, my name appears on that site once, and I've purposely kept it that way. It's not about promoting me. I don't want to be promoted. But I'm thinking students have got some good information here, so let's share it. Allow them to share it. We are open to emails. Call us. We'll kind of walk through. We've walked through this for the past 5 or 6 years, and we keep stumbling and keep finding new things. This little toy here, I'm not too sure about it yet, so I thought I would just use it today because I want to see what it's like, what the quality's like before I throw it up there. But what I do want to say to you, in July we were sent an email, and then in that email the conference here asked us if we would send them our slides. And so we said no. Because in the sort of tenor of our presentation, we thought we would put everything up on a website that you can go and get. So I set it up on the Morphopedics, ELC 2015. There's our headshots. Lovely, aren't they? I'm actually wearing jeans in that photograph because I was told it was a headshot, and then whenever they printed them for the university, they printed them like down to here. So along our faculty wall, all these guys are all dressed in suits and everything, and I'm with jeans. Our shirts hanging out. Full disclosure. So our emails are there. We're going to upload in here. Well, there's my PowerPoint from earlier on. I'm going to try and put the video from that up in here today, see what it's like. Okay, so you guys can go back and review it and watch it. And then there's the lecture stuff that Skye showed is up on there. And there's the crazy lecture that I did in my office at home one day. One university that I did want to put up here just because they do a really good job with this is Notre Dame. Notre Dame has got a really good site for their Center for Teaching and Learning, and so it's up there. That's the link to the Cultivating Media-Rich Learning Experiences. You can go to that site, and it's got a bunch of technologies, even more than what we've talked about today. It's all available there. Basically, go to other. If your university Center for Teaching and Learning doesn't have that stuff, go to another one. Look them up.
Okay, so how do we get to this?
All right, Morphopedics. .com, or you can go wiki.com. It's the default, and then it's / ELC 2015 because that's where you are.
The orthopedics.com, you get this page.
I gotta go www. It's a triple one. Yeah, it didn't automate. So morphopedics.wiki.com, ELC 2015. Do that on your phone right now. You'll pull up this page. Now, what we also did was I stuck up on here all of our references for today. All right. So all the references and a bunch that I actually didn't talk about, but some background stuff that might be useful. And where it was available in PDF, I put the link so it'll pull up wherever that's available in full PDF. All right, so you can go and get it from just clicking on the link, and it'll take you to whatever university or whatever person that put that stuff up there. All right, so that's how we tried to create that for you. Any more questions? Any last questions that we can try and answer before we're keeping you from lunch? Never good. Yes?
When you're recording, whether it's from your laptop or whatever, this you said has the microphone, but from the laptop it's just the microphone on the device?
I use both. Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, you can use it.
Okay, so when I use it, when I'm at school, it's tapped into the actual stereo sound system at school, so I can wear a mic just like Jason has. When I'm at home, you can use the mic off your laptop. If that's not good enough, you can also buy a separate microphone and a dongle, which I didn't know was a word until about a year ago. Then you can Bluetooth, and then you can even use that in the lecture hall if you don't have a portable mic walk around with it. Usually you can get it like as a clip-on or as a neck piece, and you can put an external microphone in there as well.
Yeah. If you are going to do video, I would really encourage you to think about the microphone issue. All right. We have little handy cams. We bought handy cams that have an external mic input, so that we can put on little lavalier mics, so that whenever your students watch it, they can hear it. Nobody wants to watch that. All right, so you see videos like this, nobody wants to see that. You know, you just get switched off. And so it's not that much more of an expense. We had the luxury of just opening a new building last year, and when we opened the new building, we designed it from the ground up. And so we designed all the technology in it. They didn't give me all the toys I wanted. Oh, that would have been sweet. But they gave us enough so we can now just press a button and record. So, but there are ways around it. Yes?
Is that me, yes?
Yes.
Sorry. I was looking for eye contact, I feel a little sad. How much does this Swivl thing cost?
That Swivl, I think it's $4.99. So it's not ridiculous price, but I think it's $4.99, or it was $4.99. And it's available for, you can download, I've got the stuff on my phone. So I can put my phone in there instead of the iPad. You know, so that's how you want to do it. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Thanks for coming to sunny Baltimore. We'll be available for a bit, chat with us if you want, or head to lunch, get some coffee.